Hey guys, welcome to my first video on this channel, and I wanted to talk about books. I originally wanted to make this video, make this channel. My wife and I have been big readers. Unfortunately, for like the last couple years, we haven't been big readers, just life has gotten in the way. We have 2 kids, and so, things just kind of pile onto each other, and some of the things that we used to love doing, we just haven't really done that much recently. And so last year in 2024, we really were like, hey, I want to get back into reading. Both of us love reading, and 2024 is really when we got back into reading. I originally set my goal as 12 books. I was like, you know what? I'm in school at the same time and work. I think I could at least read 1 book a month, right? Long story short, I ended up reading like 56 books total last year in 2024. And so I was like, okay, I could read much faster than I remember reading. And so I set a personal goal is that I want to read 1,000 books. That's like my lifetime goal, is like I read 1,000 books, right? Like, I know I've read a lot of books in the past, like when I was in school, especially high school, I read a lot, but I'm not counting those. These are starting right now from, I guess, technically 2024. I want to read 1,000 books, and at the same time, I've always wanted to have like a big library, right? You see like the movies and TV shows, and they're like, come into my study, and then you just got like a wall of books. Like, I want that. That looks so cool. And so part of my goal to read 1,000 books is to actually have read 1,000 books on the library. I don't know where I heard this from. Maybe it was a video I saw, or I saw it online. I don't know. But I heard somewhere that for you to have, like, for your collection to be considered a library, it has to consist of at least 1,000 books. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounded pretty cool to me, so I wanted to collect 1,000 books that I've read. And so we started our journey last year. This is my wife and I, so it'll be kind of like a combined effort, right? And so with this video, I won't go over every book that I read starting 2024, because we just started again last year and we kept it going here in 2025. But I did want to talk about my top 10 favorite books from last year. I think I have an older video that I'll probably post as well. I think the halfway point in 2024, I made a video. I just posted it on the Instagram and like Facebook. And it's still a decent, video. It talks about a lot of the books that I'm going to talk about here in my top 10, but just in a little bit more depth. So I'll probably post that maybe sometime this week. But no, I wanted to talk about my top 10 books from 2024. And then just before we get into it, my purpose of this channel is that I wanted to post my thoughts on books. But it's something I love to do. I'll be posting every time I finish one. I kind of wanted to make a video, just talk about my overall experience with it, my thoughts on it, my review on it, stuff like that. So without further ado, guys, let's talk about my top 10 favorite books from 2024. And starting out at number 10, before we get into it, I did want to say I only included 1 book from each series. There are a few different series from the same author, so that is fine, but I read quite a few series last year, and if I picked my absolute top 10 favorite books of last year, it would be like 2 or 3 series only, and you would only see like those ones, right? And I'll kind of talk about those when we get to them, but I chose 1 from each series just to give this video a little bit more variation, right? So starting off at number 10, I actually don't have the book format for it. I rented it from the library, and it is The Fall of Gondolin. This is like a snippet from the Silmarillion. It is a prequel to the Lord of the Rings, before Lord of the Rings, before The Hobbit, and it is about like the Second Age, if I remember correctly. It's been a hot minute, but I really like this one. It has some super cool fights. Unfortunately, it's really short because it's just like a snippet of the Lord of the Rings. But there's this dude, and they fight like multiple of the Balrogs, which is the big smoke fire demon that Gandalf fights. Super cool fights. I really like the background lore aspect of all these things. I've already read The Lord of the Rings. I read them back in like high school, and there's some of them are on this list, but I am reading them again as an adult, and I do have to say, I even read the Silmarillion in, I think I was like a junior or senior in high school, and even reading this little snippet of it, The Fall of Gondolin, there's like so many things that like just completely went over my head, or things that I completely missed. And that's with a lot of books that I read as a kid. It's like when you read them as an adult, it's like a new fresh set of eyes on it, right? So coming in at my number 9 spot, I have The Essential Tales of H.P. Lovecraft. I am a big H.P. Lovecraft type horror person. I love the Call of Cthulhu. I love the Mountain of Madness. This one right here, there's a bunch of different variations of this same style book. This is just the Cartwell Classics edition. Unfortunately, this one is a little bit harder because like the words are really tiny in this one, so I do wish that I had maybe gotten a different version. But same thing with this one is that it's just a collection of his most popular stories. So this book's gonna have a lot of the same stories that are in a bunch of different versions of this same thing by different publishers. I put this one lower. I love the dark cosmic horror of it. I really liked it. Unfortunately, not all of the short stories that are in here are good. A lot of them are bangers. I love the Mountain of Madness. I love the Call of Cthulhu. I actually really like The Color of Purple. Very sci-fi, space horror, cosmic horror. So if you're into that, I would highly recommend H.P. Lovecraft. I actually originally got this one because I loved the video game Bloodborne, and a lot of that game is heavily inspired by stories by H.P. Lovecraft. So coming in at number 7 is another horror style book, but it is actually Star Wars Death Troopers. This one is by Joe Schreiber. This is like a fun little book. It's not very long, as you can see. It's only like 200 something pages. Man, this makes me want to have like a dark horror rated R version of Star Wars. I don't think we're ever gonna get it, but man, this one was super fun. It is set, I want to say, between 3 and 4, episode 3 and 4, and it does have some characters. I won't say who because it was kind of a surprise when we finally got to meet them, but it's got 2 characters from that main Star Wars universe that do show up. But premise of this book is that they find a giant Star Destroyer, one of the Empire's spaceships, just totally abandoned. They get inside and there was a virus that was in these canisters. This ship was trying to make a bunch of bioweapons. It gets out. All of the stormtroopers get like infected and they die, and it's a lot of horror aspect to it. Very great. They did like a version of this kind of in like the Clone Wars where there's like a hive mind and like on the Geonosian stuff. If you guys ever watch Star Wars, super great book, not very long. Just a fun ride. I really enjoyed this one. I wish Star Wars would do more books like this. This is technically Legends, I guess. I've read a few of the canon Star Wars books, and honestly, dude, the Legends books are just so much better. Next one that I have on the list, I don't have the book for it. I'll put it up here somewhere, but it is Dark Matter. This is a sci-fi book, and I really like this book. Basically, you have your main character, Jason, and he gets taken away by an alternate version of himself from a different universe. There's multiverses in this one, but the way they do it is just very simple and it's not super confusing. There's this box they go into, and once you go inside, there's all these different doors, and each door opens up to another reality. And it's really just a story about a husband and a father trying to make his way back home after he was taken away from that life. Really like the story. The sci-fi is very easy to understand and comprehend. I feel like with a lot of these sci-fi books, a lot of it is just, they're throwing out numbers and calculations, and it just gets too much where it's hard to follow. This one is very good. It does have a TV show. I've only seen like the first couple episodes, and so far, I'm really liking it. Highly recommend this for anyone that is trying to get into sci-fi. It's a very easy read. It's only one book. Highly recommend it. Coming in at number 6, I have Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. This was actually the very first book that I read in 2024 when we initially started our reading journey. This is by Brandon Sanderson. I've read a few Brandon Sandersons up to this point, but at the time of reading this one, I hadn't even read it. I haven't even heard of Brandon Sanderson. I haven't read it in a super long time. I literally was at Walmart and I saw this and I was like, I want to get back into reading, and I was like, let me just go look at the section of books that Walmart has, and I saw that this said Yumi and the Nightmare Painter, and I was like, dude, that sounds Nightmare Painter? That sounds freaking awesome. This book was actually really good. It was my first one. It was also one of my favorite books that I read last year. You got Yumi, who is in like this world that is always light and it's hot, and there's like these spirits, and she stacks the rock to call the spirits. And then you have the Nightmare Painter, who's in a world that is always black, and he basically, it kind of reminds me of City of Ember, where it's like complete darkness, and he is part of the Nightmare Painters, where they patrol the edge of the city and they get rid of these dark, evil nightmares that spawn up by painting them into happy scenarios. And it basically draws the evil spirit into the painting. There's a point where she's asking for help, the Nightmare Painter gets sent, and then he's in her body and she's kind of taking a back seat, and they flip-flop each other's lives, where now he's trying to call the spirits and then she's trying to stop these nightmares. And I don't know, it's really cool. I really like the ending. I thought Yumi was highly annoying at the beginning, but she grew on me. The story between this is kind of a little bit of a romance towards the end. Just the storytelling and the writing in this was very well done, and it actually got me hooked. Had a lot of Brandon Sanderson recommendations after reading this one, and easily becoming one of my more favorite writers. I just love the way that he writes and the way he portrays the story. The characters, that's one thing he does really well, is the characters are excellent. Highly recommend this book as well. All right, coming in at number 5 is actually The Hobbit. I haven't read this one since like 6th or 7th grade. It's been a hot minute. I read it again as an adult. I haven't read this one in so long, and actually, this might be a hot take here, but I actually like The Hobbit more than, I don't want to say The Lord of the Rings, but The Fellowship of the Ring. I read The Fellowship and I love the fight with the Balrog, but this is like a perfect fantasy book. It's got dragons, it's got dwarfs, it's got treasure, it's got people fighting over gold and gems, and this is just a classic fantasy. When I think of it, this is just a very well adventure fantasy book. I love all of the characters in here. Really enjoyed this book. There's not much to say about it. The Hobbit's been talked about to the death. Really love this book. I'm actually on Return of the King now, and I haven't, like I said, I haven't read these books since I was in like junior high. It's been a hot minute, and reading these as an adult is like reading it for the first time. There's so many things that completely went over my head. The Hobbit, excellent book. If you guys haven't read that, just do yourself a favor. It doesn't get much better than The Hobbit. It's so good. Coming in at number 4 is Dune. I actually read the entire, I shouldn't say the entire series. I read up to Emperor of Dune. So I've read the first 4 books, and I've kind of stopped there. A lot of people are saying just to kind of hang out after that one. Basically, I watched the first Dune movie, and I was like, yeah, that one was good. And then I watched Dune 2, and I was like, bro, this is so good. I love Dune 2 so much. I want to read the book. I want to see, we always hear that the books are better than the movies. The movie does a fantastic job, but I actually like some of the changes that they made in the movie that are different from the book. But man, this was such a awesome book. It's much slower. If you have seen the movies, if you combined basically Dune 1 and Dune 2, it's like this much is Dune 1 and then this much is just Dune 2. Like after reading the book, you're like, wow, Dune 2 is literally just like the last 100, 200 pages of this big behemoth. This is like 600 pages, something like that. Yeah, super, super good. It's a little bit of a slower one, but this is like high sci-fi, epic space opera stuff, very similar to like Star Wars in my opinion. There's just a lot of similarities, but Paul Atreides is freaking awesome. I love the characters in this book. They do it just like the movie. I think that they do a fantastic job taking a lot of the stuff that's in this book and putting it on the screen. So fantastic book. I've read the first 4. Dune Messiah was also really good, and Children of Dune was even better. And then I personally really liked God Emperor of Dune, but if I had to pick my favorite of the series, it's probably the first one. I just love the story. I love the political maneuvering and, the Emperor taking out the Atreides with the Harkonnens and just all that political intrigue and trying to get control over the spice. Really cool. Now we're entering my top 3 favorite books from 2024. And then coming in at number 3 is Mistborn: The Final Empire. This is another one by Brandon Sanderson. Different series though. man, this book was so freaking good. It's a trilogy. I've read all 3 of them, and I was debating putting the 3rd one here. They're so close, but what really made me put this one a little bit is we have our character Kelsier that's in this book, and I just love Kelsier as a character so much. And even to this day, there's a fight in this book between Kelsier and an Inquisitor towards the end. And even to this day, I've read lots of books so far of 2024, and this is one of the best fight scenes I have ever read. There's a few that are better in books that I've read, but man, this was so well written. I love the characters. I felt emotionally attached to all of the characters, and this is very much like there's a lot of loss. Like reminds me of like Game of Thrones. Brandon Sanderson is not afraid to kill off important and main characters in this one. And it doesn't just happen in this book, it happens in all 3 of the books. There's characters that die and I'm like, no! Very good. If you guys haven't read Mistborn, I highly recommend it. This book is so good. Coming in at number 2 for me, I actually have Empire of the Vampire. Same thing with Mistborn. I was kind of going back and forth between Empire of the Vampire and Empire of the Damned, which is book 2 of this one. I went with this one just because the initial read of this one, I was hooked. Essentially, if you guys have seen the Van Helsing movie with Hugh Jackman, it's basically that, but it's very bloody. It's got vampires. It evolves around half vampires, and there's like a whole vampire like school called the Silver Saints that are specifically there to take out the vampires, and they all have special abilities. I won't spoil it because getting his ability was super cool. You don't find out towards the end. Also, another thing that I really like about this book and like the second one is that there's a ton of like artwork. Let me see if I can find. There's just like a ton of really cool artwork that I really enjoyed in this book. And it's in both books too. Like, I don't know, there's just like a ton of just really cool artwork. I love the story of Gabriel, and I love that they have like these like tattoos that are like made out of silver, like, and it just helps them fight the vampires. Like, I love all the characters here. There's even a moment towards the end of this that really reminds me of like an Anakin versus Obi-Wan fight where Gabriel is fighting his old master, and it's like they're both right in their own way, so there's not really a side to choose, but it just is very heartbreaking because it's a very emotional fight. They're both fighting for what they believe is right, and they end up having to fight each other. Very good book. I can't wait for the 3rd one to come out. I believe it comes out sometime later this year. Yeah, and extremely love that book. I can't wait for the next one. And then coming in at my number 1 is Dark Age by Pierce Brown. I am still not okay after all the stuff that has happened in this book. For those that don't know, this is book 5 in the Red Rising series, and this is what I was saying, that I kind of wanted to choose only one book per series, because if I'm being honest, like almost all of the books from Red Rising would be in my top 10 easily. I love the Red Rising series. It's like a sci-fi epic space opera, and if I had to just like put it in the simplest terms, it's Star Wars mixed with Game of Thrones, and then you just smash it together. Like, there is so much epicness that happens in this, so many great fights, especially Dark Age. Oh man, I'm still not okay. I don't want to spoil it because this is technically book 5 in the series, but the first book, if you guys have read Red Rising, the first one is very much, kind of reminds me of like Hunger Games style-ish, where, you know, they're in an arena. This one, they call it the Institute, and they have to get all of the, what are the sigils or standards or whatever they call it to win the competition, basically. And it's very Hunger Games-ish. It's all right. Easily the worst book. It's not bad book. I still think it's like a 4.5 easy. It's like if you were to put all of the books in greatest to least, Red Rising is at the bottom. Dark Age is extremely well. Iron Gold is the second book. Iron Gold is really where I think the series kind of gets its own legs and becomes its own thing without trying to look like something else. And man, the amount of heartache and darkness that happens in this book is absolutely insane. I am continuing the series. I do have Lightbringer, and I plan on reading that one. I can't wait for the next book to come out. I think Red God hopefully comes out this year. I mean, I'm not getting my hopes up. I've seen a lot of people say 2026. I'm not real sure where people are getting that. But if you guys haven't read the Red Rising series, it is so far my favorite series that I have ever read. It is so good. I am so emotionally attached to these characters. There's some characters that if something bad happens to them, we're starting riots, man. I am so addicted to this series. But that's going to be it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Hopefully it wasn't too long for you guys. And yeah, hopefully you guys liked it enough that you can watch some of my, upcoming videos that I have. I did say I do have an older video of one that I made on Facebook and Instagram. It's talking about a lot of the same series that I did here, but just a little bit more in depth. It was like my 6 months, how have I been doing reading after 6 months. So I'll probably post that one in a couple days. But yeah, that's gonna be it for the video, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'm always open for more book recommendations. So if you guys have a book that I should read, a series that I should read, let me know down in the comments. I would love to check them out. And yeah, that's gonna be it for the video, guys. Peace.